I'm Julia Davis, a film major who stumbled into the business world with no experience in 2006. I was able to fail enough to learn how to run a seven-figure business and have provided consulting services to over 200 individually owned companies. Through this podcast, I hope to provide some perspective on the growth and grit it takes to accomplish big goals and share some hard lessons I've had to learn along the way. Thanks for joining us on the Growth and Grit podcast, where we dive deep into what it takes to really grow as a person or a leader, change maker. Today, we have a conversation that's one of transformation, hope, truth. And my guest is a powerful voice in the fight against obesity. Her 4 decades of lived experience through dieting, emotional eating, and now she stands in recovery using her story to bring real change to people, healthcare providers, and even entire organizations of people, living proof of how healing is possible at any stage. She mentors others through mindset shifts and breaks myths around food addiction and helps people find freedom in the patterns that maybe have held them back. So, whether you've struggled with your own relationship with food or you want to support others in their health journey, this conversation will meet you with compassion and challenge and clarity. So, Michelle, thank you for joining us. And let's dive right in.
Julia, I'm so excited to be here. I have been looking forward to this conversation for a couple of weeks.
Oh, I'm so excited. So I know when we chatted before, you kind of gave your history of, working in corporate America and feeling and going through those feelings in a job that you love. Can you kind of start us at the beginning of how you kind of became a person on this path?
Yes, 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 yes. I mean, that question takes me so many places because it's like, it's like the question of like, when was your rock bottom moment? And if for anybody that has ever struggled with food addiction or obesity, you know that there's not that you have many rock bottom moments. And so when we talk about what started me, there are a couple of different places that I could start, but I think I want to start with this because I think it's really relevant for entrepreneurs and people that are working, especially for people that are working in their passion. And the shift, one of the major shifts happened for me when I was in my doctor's office and my doctor said to me, "Stress will kill you. It is your job." I was there for a weight issue, just trying to figure out what to do to get control over that. And she must have asked me 10,000 questions. And I am like, "Why are you asking me all these questions? I mean, just, give me a plan that I can work with. Give me a program." And none of those had worked before. I found myself in this like crazy making place of asking for that thing that I had done for so many years that really didn't give me exactly what I needed. So she sat down and she asked me this series of questions. And then finally she said, "It is stress, and stress will kill you." And in that moment, even though I didn't, realize it like I do now, I didn't have the realization. I knew something had to shift, but what I felt and knew was that a job that I loved, a career that I had gone to school for in marketing and advertising that was really competitive. And I knew so many people that had studied it in school and they weren't working in their field, so to speak. And I had been lucky to do that for decades. And it was like a fun job. And the notion that a job that I really leaned into, I knew that I excelled at, right? And it was I worked from a passionate place. The fact that a job that I loved could be stressful, I couldn't it didn't even compute for me. It didn't go I mean, I had to take some time to wrap my head around the notion of that.
Right. So I remember you talking about like walking into every meeting and having this feeling about yourself. So like you knew that was stressing you out because of how you felt on a daily basis whenever you walked into a room.
So, you know, a as someone who struggled with obesity and food addiction, my weight, fluctuated. And in my lifetime, I have gained and lost over 700 pounds. And my struggle was a struggle that I think so many women deal with, so many Black women. I'm a Black woman, so I talk about this through my lens of losing 30 pounds, gaining 40, losing 40, gaining 50, losing 50, gaining 60. And even though I excelled in my career, right? Even though I excelled in my career, I every and I was in sales, right? So, people, salespeople have to present a certain image.
Yeah.
And even though I was in the designer suits and dressed to the nines and all that, I still had a body that I had to reckon with. I had to reckon with every morning in the mirror in front of the closet, and I had to reckon with that body before presentations. I cannot think of a time during that time that I never ever wondered before I walked into the room if I was gonna be the biggest one in the room or not. And so before I ever got to the presentation, before I ever got to the work, before I ever got to my expertise, I had to I had to deal with those inner thoughts. I had to battle through that. And now as I sit here and talk about this, I think about suppose those weren't my thoughts. Suppose this battle was out of the way. Suppose I didn't have to put any energy into confronting that, right? And I could just go, straight to my expertise without going through that extra level. As good as I thought I was, I could have been even better.
It's a lot of mental energy spent on us
Yes.
serving you, you know?
Yes.
So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, you talked about a little bit about the mindset shift, and the different things you can look at in your career, in your life, and that's what you specialize in is just it's like more of a mentality thing than anything else and creating small habits and small things that can really make a big difference. Can you share some of those with people?
Sure, sure. So, here's the thing, Julia, as I think about this and I think about the framework that I developed to combat this, right? To win, really, to win. It it caused me to step back and look at my career in sales and how I became successful in sales. And I have a framework that I use. It's called brand new, right? And the first principle is begin and believe. And in sales, that's where I started. I had to start with the fact I had to believe that I had solutions that would help elevate my client, that would take them to where they wanted to go. I had to believe in that, right? I had to just be that was the starting point. I have a solution that I can offer that can help them. That's the first thing, belief. Well, that same principle applied to my body and my weight, but I never knew it. I never made the translation. Then the second principle is rise up and reinvent. So whatever client I was dealing with, they had some story about their business, about how they were doing business that they needed to change in order to get to the next level that my advertising solutions could help them with. But I had to uncover that story through questions, just like my doctor did, right?
Mhm.
But I never questioned my own self about the beliefs that I had about what I was eating and why. It wasn't until I was 60 years old, and I talk about this in my TED Talk. It wasn't until I was 60 years old that I ever asked myself, what is the definition of food? What, right? I ate for 60 years, right? Well, past the time when you're a baby and your parents are feeding you, I ate for 60 years without a fundamental understanding of what the purpose of food was. And, certainly there's some things in this environment that obscured that, and that's a whole nother conversation. But getting clear, right? Getting clear on what I believed about food and what getting clear on what my clients believe, it's the same step. So the transformation, whether I'm talking about business or whether I'm talking about how I manage food and gaining mastery in those skills, it's the same. So the rising up and reinventing those stories. Then the second is alignment and accountability, right? So there is not any successful business that doesn't have systems in place, right? For accountability, that the business isn't in alignment with whatever, your core mission, your vision, and all that. The business has to be you have to be in alignment with that. Well, I had to sit back and think about, how do I do that? How do I do that on a personal level for my not just my own health, but for my own life? Because it was a it was a dawning for me to understand that these decisions that I was making, this next chapter, these next steps, wasn't really just about being able to wear cute clothes, because I really did. I want, my goal is I wanted to be able to walk in the Ann Taylor, right? Even though they were designed for European women, not me, but that's okay. I would, I want to walk in the Ann Taylor. I want to go in the White House Black Market and buy something off the mannequin, rather than walking by longing for that to be for me, right? So to get to the point where I understood that it was more than that. It was really about saving my life, saving my physical life, saving my emotional life. And even though I didn't have diabetes, I didn't have high blood pressure, I didn't have any of those indicators, it was coming. It was coming for me, and it is the same thing in our businesses. If we don't ask the questions, if we don't pay attention, if we aren't in alignment, if we aren't accountable, the business may be doing okay today, but it's coming for you. But if you don't have those checks and balances in place, so the other next principle is nutrition and nourishment, right? And the people that I work with, and even for my own self, it wasn't like I went on some specific plan, eat this, not that, right? It it was a matter of me understanding the purpose of food. And once I got clear on this nutrition and nourishment, the question became, is this nourishing? Is this nutritious? I mean, hands down. Is is this going to hurt me, or is it going to heal me? Is it going to cure me, or is it going to kill me? And the same questions apply when we're in business. As we're looking to make some decisions, what will this what will this ultimately mean for my business? What kind of impact will this have in the long run, right? How do I nurture my business? How do I grow it? The principles are the principles for this kind of transformation, whether it's in our bodies, in our lives, or in our business, they're the same. We have to nurture, we have to provide the information, right, to elevate us, to take us to the next level that we want. And the D in being brand new, I call it DSW, drink, sleep, and write. Drink, sleep, and write. And those were three things that I did in my weight loss journey that I didn't do. I didn't do them for years. I never drank the water because I didn't understand that the water processed the toxins out of my system. I didn't get to sleep because I bought into this myth, right? I bought into the myth that we have to be on all cylinders all the time. I gotta be there before everybody else. I gotta work longer than everybody else. I gotta hustle. I gotta grind. I gotta do that. And it takes hours to do that if you want to, break through the glass ceiling. You have to do that. So I bought into that myth. So I didn't get to sleep. And the writing piece. No, I didn't do that either because I did not understand the power of writing. I did not understand that writing was healing. And let me say this, most reputable weight loss plans will say, keep a food log, keep a journal, do something like that. I didn't do that because I didn't think it was important. The only thing I thought was important was what can I eat and how much of it can I have, right? And so when we start thinking about our businesses, we have to look past the things that we think are important, because the things that you think are important, the stuff that you really don't want to do, right, or you think aren't really related, those things become foundational, and they are the things that are most important. They give you the foundation to do the sexy stuff. But you got to take care of the counting. You have to take care of the HR.
Boring stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you gotta do that, right?
Yeah.
You gotta do the stuff that nobody sees, right? That's what that drink, sleep, and write is. That's the stuff that nobody sees, that nobody talks about, that's foundational and that's important.
And you said something about sleep on our last conversation that I thought was just And I've told my husband this, like, every day since. I was like, when you don't sleep well, your judgment goes, down and your impulses go up. So, like, that's why when you don't sleep, you eat worse, because of all that, it just drains your brain and you don't have the capacity to, like, really process great thoughts and say, "You know what? This is not gonna serve me well," or this is and I liked how you used the term, like, dangerous, right? For your body instead of unhealthy, because people can say, "Oh, yeah, I know, I just had all this food and I know it's unhealthy," and unhealthy is, like, a really kind term for it's poisoning you. But it's like, if you say, "This food is dangerous to my body," and it's dangerous, it changes the whole way you think about it because you would never, drink bleach.
Right.
Dangerous. I mean
Exactly. And you bring up just a point that's really critical, and that is the words that we use about the things that we do, right? And and it is so true. It's like sleep, my goodness. It it helps with impulse control. And even for me when I was dealing with the when I was deep into the addiction, when I was deep into the obesity, those things are diseases, right? Those are disease. And one of the ways that we deal with disease is through rest. And when we are you go to the doctor and you're sick, the doctor says get some rest. Right? That means go home, go to sleep. Don't just go home, just rest because your body needs it. And so I think that we do discount how restorative sleep is and not only how much it helps us with impulse control, but how much it helps us with performance, how much it helps us with productivity and proficiency, sleep. And because not just sleep, but even just meditation, this notion of exercising your brain even though it looks like you're not doing anything. And so, um I think about this. I'm old enough to remember when cigarette machines were everywhere, when smoking was a way of life. And you would go by certain places and you would see people standing outside on their cigarette break, right? They're smoking or they're going to take a break. And it was accepted. It was accepted as normal. As part of the daily work routine to go out and take a cigarette break. Take a cigarette break to do something that would ultimately impair your health and kill you and cause cancer, right? You were given permission to do that. You were given permission to do that. But if you're working now and you say your boss, "I'm gonna go take a meditation break," you're gonna do what? Or they walk by your office and you're sitting there maybe with your eyes closed and you're right. "What are you doing?" "I'm meditating."
Right.
It's like, what kind of fruitcake have I hired? Right.
They'd be like, "She sleeps all day in her office, does nothing." Yeah.
So that's the shift. This understanding that you can take take the 5 minute, take the 10-minute meditation break to exercise your brain, to step back, to organize your thoughts and come out on the other side of it, refresh with a new perspective, with and a way to solve some problems, make it as part of your regular routine. So you make it a part of your regular routine rather than something you do when you're in crisis. It just becomes uh, automatic for the way that you process information, right? It is strengthening your brain. And that ultimately is why we're hired, right? That is our mental capital comes from that. And so we need to, pay attention to it. So drink, sleep, and right. That's the next is new. And that is no is the new yes. No is the new yes. And we've all heard, no is a sentence by itself, right? Um, so we have to decide what we want to say yes to. That's circling back to that beginning and believing, right? We have to decide what we want to say yes to. It's a notion of beginning with the end in mind, knowing what that is. And when that's really clear in our mind, then it helps us decide what we are going to say no to and stand firm in the no. right? Not waffle, because we have to believe I know before somebody else will believe it. And I felt it. I felt it so many times, on my weight loss journey, like especially in the early days when I'm like trying to, turn something down or not, not eat it, and I'm shaky on it, right? And the people would get it. Well, go ahead, just have a little piece, right? Right? A little piece won't hurt you. Are you sure you don't want? I mean that, right? So they catch that indecision. But if my no is no thank you and I just turn my head, if my no is no thank you and I change the subject, if my no is definitive, if my no is not offer alternative, or right? If my no is no and I walk away, then nobody challenges it.
That's right.
But I have to believe it first. I have to believe it first, and what allows me to believe it and what allows me to stand in it is the vision that I have beyond it. And if I stay in that vision beyond it, that works. That works whether you're talking about your health and your body or whether you're talking about your business. What right? It's that. It's that place, it's that space. The E in brand new is I call it evaluate, ask, and think. Right? And to evaluate, ask, and think, that takes energy, that takes attention, that takes time. It's all EAT. I love an acronym, helps me remember. Right? So it helps me remember, but it is true. We have to always be asking, we have to always be thinking, we have to always be evaluating. There is no set it and forget it. It's not. And so what I find is that the better questions that we ask, right? The better outcomes that we have. But we have to be willing to ask the hard questions. We have to be willing to sit in the discomfort of the answer, right? And we have to be willing to wait, right? We have to be okay with that discomfort and know that if we are in discomfort, if there is some sort of confusion, whether it's food or whether it's in our business, that means a breakthrough is coming, right? So it's not anything for us to be afraid of if we have some confidence that if I can I have enough confidence, I have enough team support, I have enough resources, I have all of this inside of me to get to the other side. Because on the other side of this confusion is some clarity, is some breakthrough. And that's how you grow. That's how you develop. That's how you build the muscle. Is confusion, clarity, confusion, breakthrough, confusion. It you keep moving up. So that's the E in brand new. And then W, right? W is the wow. Wow. The is when you if you've gone through all those steps, if you've gone through brand NE, then you deserve to celebrate. You deserve to celebrate yourself. You deserve, to take your team out, right? To celebrate, to reflect, right? And take some time to honor that, to honor the process, because the next day, the next week, the next step is to start all over again. And when you start all over again, you start all over again at the next level. And you keep cycling through that. And that's how transformation happens. And when I figured out how to take that same process that I was applying when I was working with my clients and apply it to my body, apply it to my health, that's when a fundamental shift happened.
How long did it take you to I mean, think this is, we're in a world of instant gratification where everyone wants immediate results, which we
Mhm,
know if you're doing something like this, it takes time.
mhm.
To give people that are listening maybe an idea of like, this is how long realistically it will take for you to feel like you're making progress.
Mhm.
I mean, if you get a good night's sleep a few nights in a row, you immediately feel better. But
Let me say this. I want to say that everybody is different, right? And if you're looking at um, just from a health standpoint, and you're talking about what I believe is so important, which is getting processed foods out of your diet. When you get the processed foods out, right, and you start leaning into real food, real fresh fruits and vegetables, high quality protein, you start to feed your brain. You start I mean, and you can feel results in terms of not having the brain fog, better memory, higher function. I mean, just better cognition. You can feel that in a couple of days. Right? I mean, that it can happen in a couple of days. But when you're talking about longer, um, uh, more long-term transformation, the program that I have that, it is a weight loss program, but what it ultimately is, it is a self-discovery program. It is a transformation program because the weight loss is the byproduct of getting connected to yourself. And so it's 52 weeks. It is 50, and I have had people come to me and ask me about shortening it and doing something else and doing it kickstart. I'm not gonna do it. Because it is you've got to be committed to the work of the transformation. And sometimes even though I said once you get the processed foods out of your system, you can feel it. You can feel it in 3 days, but depending on what you're up against, I was up against 40 years of limiting beliefs and thoughts. Right? In 40 years. So, you could be 3 months into it and you're doing the work and you might not see it. You might not see it.
Mhm.
And you can get discouraged because you don't see it right away.
Yeah.
And but if you go to the 4th month, then you have a breakthrough. And all it is like the breakthrough that you need to start building. But it is to me, weight loss is just like weight gain. And here's what I had to understand, here's what I teach, and here's what most people don't understand, is before you gain a single extra pound, extra ounce of anything on your body, you gain it in your mind first.
Whoa.
You gain it in your mind, and you have to lose it the same way. You have to lose it through the same portal. And we have these expectations of, "Oh, I wanna lose this amount of weight in this amount of time." Well, we don't gain weight a pound a week. We don't get it 5 pounds a week. We gain it ounces at a time. Ounces. It's so imperceptible that we don't even see it. It's so imperceptible that as it happens, we normalize it until the weight gain is so much that we look in the mirror, we don't even recognize ourselves. And we're like, what happened? Where'd that come from? That's why the accountability is so important. Right? That's why having the metric, that's why the measurement is so important. Because sometimes there are things that are happening in the environment that show up in our body, right? Before we actually recognize them in our mind, right? Even though we gain it in our mind first, we might not recognize it all the way because we're not conscious, because we're not aware. And so the first thing I work on with people is consciousness, is awareness, because we live in a culture and a society that wants to keep us unconscious. Because as long as we're kept unconscious and kept unaware, that we can be controlled. But when we get our consciousness back, when we get our awareness back, then we get our control back. But we have to be willing to go to those questions to get there. So this transformation process, it and this is why it is so important. Julia, I sit here the same size now as I was in 2019 when I went through this process. I don't worry one day after 40 years of that yo-yo dieting. I don't worry one day about gaining the weight back. No, not a single day. And it is because of transformation. And we all have that capacity in us. We all can tap into it because it is like this weird, it's like a butterfly. It's like a butterfly, or it's like a baby learning to walk. I'm gonna start with the butterfly. A butterfly doesn't start off as a butterfly. Butterfly starts off as a caterpillar. But once the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it can no longer go back to being a caterpillar because it is transformed.
Mhm.
It is transformed. So now it's flying, right? And it's thinking butterfly thoughts, right? It's no longer thinking caterpillar thoughts. But it had to go inside to do that. And
That's a
so
good that's such a good comparison to entrepreneurship too, because I feel like once you've had a taste of running your own business or being independent or whatever, it's so hard to go back to work for somebody else. And it's like, oh, now my mind is all a mess. I can never, and it's like, no, no, no. You've transformed the way you think. So now it's hard to go back to like the normal thought process, which it should be if you had the mindset of I want to run a business.
Yes.
It'd be hard to work for somebody else after that. It's not this, no one brainwashed you. It's like this is you've developed into this person now that's like hard to deny, you know?
You are different. You are different. That I mean, that's why you go through the process to be different, right? So that piece, and we can come back. We can come back to this being different, because sometimes part of the challenge with people is that they're afraid to be different. They don't have the tools to manage what being different means, right? But then back to the babies. You have children, right? I don't have children, but I've watched a bunch of them. And babies, when babies are learning to walk, you see them, and they're crawling, but they're looking at the walking people. They see the walking people with freedom. They see the walking people going indoors, going in cabins, and that is all they see. And so they're standing up, they're standing, they got the little pampers on, and they're trying to walk, and they stand up, and they take off like they're gonna walk, and they fall on their little pampers, and they fall on their butt. And so they might cry. Because it kinda surprised them.
Yeah.
Moonwalking, I wanna do this thing. But once they stand up and they fall in the Pampers the first time and they find out, okay, falling's not gonna kill me, right? The thing that they do is they get right back up. They wipe the tears, they get right back up, and then, Julia, watch them. You probably saw it. Once they Once they fall that first time and they fall the second, the third time, and the subsequent times, they kinda laugh. "Oh, look, I fell." They it becomes like a little game to them. And they stand back up and they try once again, and they're still looking at the walking people. And the thing that is so beautiful about this is as they are looking at the walking people, it does not occur to them, not once, not ever, that they won't walk. The thought of not walking never occurs to them. All they see is the possibility that comes when you can walk. And that the ability to see that and do that, whether you're talking about business or whether you're talking about your body, is key. Because I deal with so many people. Oh my goodness, I went out to dinner and I had you know, I ate some lasagna. I ate the lasagna and the tiramisu, and I fell off the wagon. I'm a failure, right? I mean, the week is I blew the week. I may as well blow the week, right? Right? It it doesn't occur to them. Okay, messing up, falling down is part of the process of building the muscle to get stronger. So you look at the lasagna, you look at the tiramisu, and you think about, what have I learned from this experience? What do I need to do next time so that this doesn't happen? This is not a moral failure. It just means that I don't know. It just means that I don't know how to do this. What do I need to learn in order to manage going out to an Italian restaurant? Right? Maybe I don't need to go to an Italian restaurant. Maybe I need to eat before I go. Maybe I need to come a little bit later. Maybe I need to come early and leave later. Maybe I need to have the Italian salad, right? Maybe I need to eat half the tell the people to put half the lasagna in a container for me, and then I'll just eat the other half. And then when the dessert comes, I'll go to the bathroom. Maybe I need to just sit there, and maybe I need to develop some other tools. Maybe I'll just have the coffee. Maybe I'll close my eyes and imagine myself in a bikini, and that's what I'll do maybe that's what I'll do during dessert and let everybody else eat, right? So that, and maybe I'll keep practicing that until it just becomes normal to me, until it becomes easy for me, until it just becomes that's what I do, right?
Right.
So, it is all muscle, it is all skill, it is all practice, but we have to give ourselves some grace. We have to kind of operate in this no judgment zone and understand that we are learning. But as we learn this thing that is so hard at the beginning, we master at the end. It is like I'm into I'm into the kid analogies here. But it is like being in the 1st grade. And I know I'm years older than you, and so maybe 1st grade wasn't the same for you. But in first when I was at well, when I was in 1st grade in kindergarten and we were learning how to write, we got the big fat pencil. We got the big fat pencil, and the alphabets were all around the perimeter of the room. And we had to practice every day writing our alphabets. And they look crazy. I mean, the A was all crooked and to the side, and it just looked all jacked up. And you take it to the teacher, and the teacher would say, "Oh, baby, that looks beautiful. It looks with you know it doesn't. You know it doesn't look like the alphabets up on the wall, but the teacher is so complimentary and supportive, right? And but so we're gonna practice again tomorrow. So you practice and you practice, and by the end of the year, because you're practicing every day, your A's look a little better, your C's look a little straighter, and then the next thing you know, you get the yellow pencil, the skinny yellow pencil, the number 2, and you practice cursive. And when you're doing cursive, the same thing. Everything looks shaky, it looks wobbly, and you can't read it. They can't read it either. But the teacher says, "Oh, baby, that is so sweet." And then by the end of the year, maybe sometime around by the middle of the year, you get the cursive thing, and it just flows off your hand. And instead of dotting your I's with a little dot, you put a little heart. Instead of crossing your T with a straight line, you do a little T with a curly Q. And when you write your name, you do a little swirl under the end. And then you start asking the teacher if you can write for her because you know how to write, right? Because you enjoy it. This thing that a year ago that was so hard that you hated and your A's looked so messed up, you didn't want to do it. Now you're looking to write for someone. It is because you have mastery. And the same thing happens whether it's in business or whether it's your weight. It, there were times in the beginning I didn't want to go out to eat, right? I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to go out with my friends, or I was wondering what I was going to do. Now, bring it. When they come around with that dessert tray, no, I won't have any. The same dessert tray that I used to lose my mind over, somebody now says, "Oh my God, I wish I had your willpower. I wish I had your self control. I wish I had your self discipline." I don't have any of those things. What I have is no desire for what that stuff will do to my body, my life, or my mind.
That's so powerful. Yeah.
Mastery. That's what we want. We don't want a relationship with food. What we want is the skill to master it.
Mhm.
That's what we're looking for. We want relationships with ourselves. We want relationships with other people. In the other areas of life, our life, we want skill and we want mastery.
And you said, I asked you what the biggest roadblock was for this, and it's the same for business, right? It's other people, right? That's the outside influences are and will always be some of the biggest roadblocks for achieving any goal. Because you do have that friend that's like, "Come on, one piece won't hurt you. Come on, it's fine. Try it." And if you're totally firm, you're like, "Okay." Or the media and advertising, it's like, Try this, don't worry, there's a medicine that can help you with that or with this, like, don't worry about" it's like, "Is that any better?" But there's so much out there that's, steering you in so many different directions, it's like, you gotta just be so, like, centered in who you are and what you believe is right and what you know and question everything else around you. Know that you're making the right decision because no one else's decision is right for you. You have to make your own knowing what you know, which is I need sleep, I need water, I need nutritious food, I need all that stuff and everything else you gotta block.
Yes. Yes. And that is that is so fundamental. That is so fundamental, but before we even get there, we have to believe in our own voice,
Yeah.
right? And that's a muscle, right? You practice that. And I'm not saying that you don't listen to, wise counsel, you don't get advice, you don't do those things, right? And you get support, but is this of understanding that your voice and your thoughts matter and that they have power, and as trite as it is, you're captain your own ship, right? And that that's where it starts. But it can start it starts one step at a time. It starts with little steps. It starts with making a decision and seeing some success with it, right? And as you make a decision and see some success with it, then you make another decision and you see some success with it, right? And then also understand that that every decision is not going to be the right decision. It's not. But we I have a friend of mine told me once, and I think it's so wonderful. He said, "No man is my friend, no man is my enemy, but every man is my teacher." And I feel like that with situations, right? Is that in every situation we have an opportunity to find the lesson. We find the lesson. And when we find the lesson, when we you know what happens, show you when we find the lesson and we draw the line in the sand, two things are gonna happen. Something is gonna happen that is going to come up to challenge that line in the sand, and something is gonna come up to support that line in the sand. Both both things always happen. Challenge and support. And we have to be on the lookout for both of them. Because because both of them feel the journey. Both of them feel our commitment. Because what will happen is that you decide, okay, let's say let's say you say, I'm not gonna eat sugar. Then somebody's gonna call, why don't you come over? We're having a birthday party, and here's a birthday cake. All right, there's a challenge, right? And then you get there, and that's challenging your decision. But as you're walking around, somebody might see you and say, "Oh my goodness, you lost some weight. You look so good." Right? There there's your support, right? It
Mhm.
it it works like that, but we have an opportunity to decide what we're gonna hear. We always have an opportunity to have decide what we're gonna hear.
Yeah, such a good message. I think that, while you were talking, I was thinking about my daughter who had a gluten intolerance. She still does. And at first, it was really hard for her to say no to the cupcakes and cookies and all the things that were brought to school. And she would, have one or whatever. And she'd come home and she'd be like, Mom, I had a cupcake at school. I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. You might have a stomach ache in a little bit, but you'll recover and it'll pass through and you'll be able to, try again tomorrow. And they're so much less hard on themselves because now it's been almost a year, and she doesn't do that anymore. She's like, "You know what? It's not worth it for me to have that because I know I'm gonna have a stomach ache." So she's like, "No, thanks. I'm good. I'm gluten-free," right? And she makes that conscious decision because she knows how it makes her body feel. She did, make the choice, but it's about, like, forgiving yourself quickly and just moving on to the next day the next day, and kids do that so well. Even if she's 11, so, like, even as a, like, almost teenager, she was like, I messed up, I probably shouldn't have had that." I'm like, it is what it is." Like, you can't triple block back, let's just move forward, maybe next time you decide, something different." And she did, she was like, "You know what? Now everyone's like, we know this person doesn't eat this, so we bring her a different type of treat," or whatever, and she's like, "Great." So, I think it's really as we were talking, I was like, "Gosh, that is so true." It's like over time, you just develop a different mindset on it instead of having to remind yourself every time and feeling impatient and feeling left out. It's just your whole brain just shifts to like, "This is good, this is bad, I need to make a good decision."
Yes, yes. And sometimes, Julia, here's the thing. Sometimes the only way for us to learn how to make what we might call a good decision is to make a bad one.
Right, and
We
see the
it
consequence.
it
Yeah.
it the that's the only it's just like when you learn how to walk. The
Yep,
only way to learn how to walk is to try and fall on your butt. You're not
yep.
e you know, right? And so it's that's not failure, it's learning. We just have to reframe it. I remember going to a conference a while back, and there was a woman who was talking about doing business overseas during the pandemic. And someone asked her the question, "What challenges did you face doing business overseas during the pandemic?" And she said, "We didn't face any challenges. We just had to learn some new stuff.
Yeah, it's all learning, right? If you don't look at it.
We ju we just had to learn a new way of doing things."
Mhm.
Instead and and it's so last this past week, just like a couple of days ago, I went to a summit. I went to a business summit. I'm here in DC, and I was having a conversation with a group of women, and we were sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and this woman said, I have this grounding. I'm not sure how it came up, but she says, I'm waiting for Instacart. I have this funny little grounding exercise that I do when I travel. I travel a lot, but I order stuff from Instacart. I order my water. I order some fruits. I order some vegetable. I order some food because I don't know what the hotel is going to have. It's expensive, but this is grounding. My grounding routine when I travel. And I thought, what a beautiful way of framing it and explaining it. The it a grounding routine is because so many times when people are doing something different outside of the norm, and I have a person in my coaching group who said, I took my own food and I felt like such an oddball. And I said, "Well, how do you feel about being an oddball?" And, she's been in there for a little while. She said, "Well, if being an oddball is gonna save my life, I'm there." Right? And so I'm like, let's make that a T-shirt, you know? So it's never the thing. If you're listening, if you don't get anything else from this conversation, it is never the thing. It is what we think about the thing, whatever the thing is. It's what we make up, it's what we believe about the thing. And we have absolute control when it comes to what we think about anything. We can change it. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it.
Yep.
We can change our thoughts and we can change our beliefs.
And something else you said that I wrote down here from our previous conversation was, if you're starting a business or in business, you have to be ready to face people who aren't going to support you. And I think that is such a key point too, because whenever you start something new, it's not like learning to walk where everyone's cheering you on and, it's like, you got a whole crowd of adults around you wanting you to walk, but, people are pushing you back down and saying, "You know what? Maybe don't walk yet." Like they're strapping you in a chair. Well, maybe not. So, like, you have to be knowing if you're going on a journey of starting a business, starting a new lifestyle, new mindset on food, there will always be people who are just never gonna support you, and that is okay.
And you have to let those people go. And I won't say let them go. I'm saying you have to put them in a different place. Because but here's the thing that is so important. Whether it's starting a business or whether it's on a health journey like this or whatever it is, you've got to find your tribe. You've got to find your community of like-minded people that are going to be supportive. Because what is going to happen is that, yeah, there are gonna be some people where you thought they were gonna be supportive, and maybe they just don't know how. Maybe they don't have the capacity, maybe they're going through some stuff in their life, that's not your issue. But you're gonna have this expectation, or you're gonna expect that they're gonna show up in a certain way, and they're gonna show up differently. But there are gonna be some people that are gonna rise up from the woodworks, from the ether, from some place that you never ever even thought of, that are gonna show up for you. Some people that you don't know, some strangers, somebody that is gonna cheer you on that you never expected, and that is a beautiful, wonderful gift. Right? To to get this. Somebody that says, "Oh my god, you inspired me. I've been looking at." I mean, just it is going to happen. Just like I said, once you draw the line in the sand, there's gonna be the challenge, there's gonna be support, there are gonna be some surprises. There are gonna be some surprises once you put yourself out there. But it is so important to be in a community of like-minded people that are moving in the same direction, that can say, "I've been there." Right? You're not on this road alone. This is what I did. It might work for you, right? And when you're in a community, again, like whether it's business or whether it's weight loss, your growth, your elevation can happen exponentially. It can happen exponentially if everybody comes to the space with their truth. Because if you come and there are 20 other people and they talk about, "I had a challenge in this area, I had a challenge in this area, this happened, this happened." You have now had the experience of 20 other people without having to go through it yourself. So when it comes, and it is coming, you can be prepared. "Oh, I remember, I know what to do." Or, "I know somebody to call, I have some options." So you don't have to go through that. And then when somebody has some success, whatever the success is, big or small, right? We gotta celebrate all of it, right?
Yeah.
We gotta celebrate the big like, like it's celebrate the small like it's big. We gotta celebrate the 1 pound like it's 100. We gotta celebrate it all because when we do, then we know that it's possible for us. So when we're at a low point, we can draw on somebody else's success and feel that because it is the energy that propels us to the next step. It's the energy that we create around that next step that takes us to the next step.
Yeah, you're so right. Oh my gosh, this is such a good conversation. Feel like everyone in the world, I hope I'm gonna blast this everywhere. But if people wanna find you, how will they do that? So I'm gonna put your LinkedIn or your calendar on the description so people can find you there. But is there another way, a website or somewhere where people can
Yes,
go?
yes, 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 yes. Okay, so there you can you can email direct me. You can email me directly at michelle@michellepettis.com. I answer all emails. Michelle@michellepettis.com. You can also find me, my book. I have a book, Leaving Large: The Stories of a Food Addict. If you just type in leavinglarge.com, you can get the link to the book, or you can get a link to a free chapter. I'll send them to you. You can see if it works for you. Absolutely. If you go to my LinkedIn, which is Michelle Pettis, I have written a number of articles that connect what we eat to how we perform. And that is so critical for people to understand that what we put in our bodies doesn't just affect our bodies. It affects our brains. It affects our cognition. It affects our ability to show up for our careers, for our jobs, for our employees. It impacts that. And if you don't eat for anything else, just eat because you want to perform better. You want to perform on a higher level. You want better cognition, better memory. You wanna get rid of the brain fog. You wanna be the smartest person on the room. E for that.
Yeah.
E for that. But Michelle at michellepettis.com, leaving large, Michelle at michellepettis.com, leavinglarge.com. You can follow me on Instagram at I am brand new now because this is all about thinking in a brand new way so that you can live in a brand new way.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me on here. This was just an incredible topic that I think is gonna help so many people.
Julia, thank you for holding space. Thank you for the conversation. I just appreciate you so much.